The red fire ant is a relative newcomer to this country. They arrived in Mobile, Alabama, sometime between 1933 and 1945. A few ants were probably hidden in the cargo of a freighter from their native Brazil. They jumped ship and quickly multiplied. By the early 1950s, farmers started to complain. The fire ant had begun to interfere with their livelihood. The ants' hard earth mounds clogged equipment and bent cutting blades. No longer just a bothersome pest, the fire ant was becoming a major nuisance. Complaints about the fire ant mounted quickly. Fire ants invaded bales of hay, rendering them useless as feed for animals. Field workers, whose jobs required them to spend long hours near fire ant mounds, were frequently attacked and painfully stung. Young farm animals were sometimes killed when they strayed into ant-infested pastures. A chemical war against the fire ant was launched. It began on a small scale and then escalated. Cyanide, chlordane, dieldrin, heptachlor, keepone. Virtually every insecticide known to man was used against the fire ant. Yet the number of ants only increased. They continued to spread. In 1962, a newly discovered insecticide called Mirex offered new hope for the war against the ants. Large areas of land were covered with small pellets of bait containing the insecticide. Where other chemicals had failed, this one seemed to control the ants. A fleet of vintage B-17 bombers was converted to drop insecticide. Their single mission, to destroy the fire ant. The campaign has been called the Vietnam of entomology. It lasted for years, covered vast areas of land, and cost millions of dollars. When it was over, there were more fire ants than before. The fire ants have continued to multiply and spread, and scientists are searching frantically for a new weapon against them. At the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Fire Ant Control Lab, nearly 4,000 new insecticides have been carefully tested. So far, none has proved both safe and effective. A winged fire ant queen, ready for mating. The major problem in controlling the spread of fire ants lies in their method of reproduction. Mating takes place not on the ground, but high in the air. Unfertilized winged queens are produced in large numbers by every colony. At mating time, usually in the spring, they leave the colony for a nuptial flight. A hovering cloud of winged male ants waits in the sky high above them. The queens fly up to the males to be inseminated. After their aerial rendezvous, the fertile queens fly back to the ground. Each is programmed by nature to establish a new colony wherever she lands. The queen's new colony may be located hundreds of yards or even miles from her original mound. Within a month, a small underground colony has emerged around the queen. The first generation of workers tends the developing larvae with care, keeping them warm and alive. The queen herself receives constant attention. A group of specialized workers does nothing but groom and feed her. The only way the workers can identify her is by the chemical odor or pheromone which she exudes. For the rest of her life, the queen will do nothing but lay eggs, millions of them. Each developing egg is carefully guarded and cared for. Quickly, the emerging colony will multiply in size. Scientists have isolated the queen pheromone and are attempting to use it in their struggle to control the fire ant. When the pheromone is spread on a stick, workers mistake it for the queen. They react automatically and carry it into the colony. The pheromone odor may someday serve as a way to deliver new insecticides into the core of a fire ant mound. At present, however, it is only an experiment, which holds some promise for the future. Parasitic mites sometimes infest the bodies of fire ants. This fact has led scientists to search for other organisms that could control the ant population. So far, none has been found. Viewed through an electron microscope, the tiny fire ant takes on grotesque form. Nearly half of its head area is taken up by two sharp mandibles, each with 3 points to tear and bite. The fire ant's real wallop, however, comes from its venomous stinger, not its bite. Using a tiny syringe, Agriculture Department scientist Dr. Mike Glancy carefully milks venom from a dissected fire ant. The venom is unique in the animal world. It is a burning alkaloid chemical similar to the substances found in poisonous plants. The fire ant's venom makes an accidental sting a very painful experience. The ant first bites the skin with its mandibles, then it injects poison with the stinger. The result is a painful pustule which lasts several days. Dogs that play in fire ant areas are highly vulnerable. This puppy was savagely attacked. Farm animals grazing in infested pastures frequently receive numerous painful stings. This woman fell on a fire ant mound and was badly stung. In 1974, foraging fire ants entered the window of a convalescent home and stung this woman hundreds of times. She barely survived. As the fire ant has spread, it has taken a human toll. People have died from complications such as gangrene, which developed from fire ant stings. The elderly, the allergic, and people with circulatory problems are especially vulnerable to the venom. The list of victims will undoubtedly grow. The fire ant is multiplying and spreading at an incredible rate. Today, fire ants are sweeping westward and also to the north. They are moving through Texas and are expected eventually to reach California. If a fertilized queen should land aboard a cross-country truck or stow away in someone's camping gear, they could quickly infest vast new areas. Scientists have projected that the region as far northwest as Seattle, Washington is destined to be infested by fire ants. In the Northeast, even New York City may someday be plagued by the ant. Wherever fire ants spread, they will leave their mark on those unlucky enough to encounter them. The scientific name of the fire ant is Solenopsis invicta. It means the unconquered ant. The struggle between man and insects is as old as man himself. We have rarely, if ever, gained the advantage. In the short time that fire ants have inhabited the United States, they have undergone evolutionary changes. They have quickly adapted themselves to better survive and exploit their environment. Special colonies have been found containing not one, but as many as 20,000 queens. It was recently discovered that some fire ants have adapted their bodies to store food for better survival in cold temperatures. 60 years ago, an entomologist wrote, "Since the world began, we have never exterminated, we probably shall never exterminate as much as one single insect species."
If there ever was an example of an insect we cannot destroy, the fire ant is it.